Welcome to Meet the Author Live. I'm your host, John Saunders. This program is brought to you by book publisher New Degree Press, or NDP. NDP is part of Manuscripts, Inc. This enterprise has now published over 2,000 authors from 6 continents and earned a spot on the Inc. 5000 list for the second year in a row. This is the fastest growing privately held companies in America. Meet the Author Live is an opportunity to learn everything valuable there is to know about the author, and we can answer your questions live in the chat. So to start, if you would, please drop it in the chat where you're joining us from today, and we'll start with that one and see where we have groups calling us from. Deepti has an amazing global audience, so it'll be curious to see where we have folks joining us from. Almost 400 people signed up for your show today. So today I have with me Deepti Pahwa, who published her book, Trailblazer Founders, Breaking Through Invisible Barriers, just a couple of weeks ago, and she's joining us live from Switzerland. Who is Deepti? She's a moonshot thinker, a person who proposes radical solutions using disruptive ideas for a seemingly insurmountable problem, and an ally for entrepreneurs. In her multiple roles as innovation and leadership executive coach to C-suites and entrepreneurs, founding partner of LISA, the lead incubator and startup accelerator at Stanford Business School. She's an advisor for DayOne MedTech Accelerator and jury and mentor at Masschallenge. She also helps to define and refine big innovation ideas and visions. Deepti, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. A lot of fun. I saw Ethan Turr already jumped on there. Ethan, thank you. Where are you calling in from, buddy? To let our listeners know. But Deepti, let's start with my favorite. How does it feel to be a published author? Your book's now out there.
Oh, wow. It's surreal. I wanted to write a book for about 10 years now, and it's finally done, thanks to NDP. A sense of accomplishment. And not just your name on the book, when you actually read the reviews and the personal messages you receive from people on whose lives you're having an impact on, like even in just 1 week, it feels all worth it. So amazing.
I love to hear it. And unsurprisingly, Trailblazing Founders already made the number one new release tag on Amazon. So congratulations on the fast start. We had one other question for our listeners that we wanted to get out of the gate here. And that is, what was your interest in joining our session here today and learning about Trailblazing Founders? So if you would, after you drop where you're calling in from, please drop that answer to the chat. But we've got Los Angeles, so published author. Kurax, I don't even know. Is that Switzerland? Mark, is that where you're calling it from? You know that one, Deepti? Do you see?
Kuru. Yeah, that's pretty near to my place.
Oh, nice. All right. Neighbors calling in. I love it. Amazing. So you wrote this book, a bit of a non-linear journey, we might call it. What do you think was the hardest part about getting it done?
Oh, loads of them. But let me start with the fun part first, okay? I enjoyed doing the interviews. I met and built relationships and friendships with so many wonderful people, founders, VCs, industry experts. The insights you get on those one-on-one interviews, there is so much to take in and learn from them. I could actually build a video library out of these wonderful lessons, from these fantastic talks. And then the hard part, now you have done some 100-odd interviews. That was fun. Now, where do you even start to distill that down to structured insights, patterns, what to keep, what to leave? Leaving was the hard part. How do you fit so much valuable data that you gathered in just 10 chapters or precisely 60,000 words? And then you want to top it again to convert these into powerful strategies and toolkits for people who want to read in a more digestible, structured format. So that it makes sense for the audience. And so that was the hard part. And then, of course, the last part, when I had to finish editing of my manuscript under a very tight deadline of 8 weeks, we all know who have gone through this journey, what it feels like, those 8 weeks. When you feel, your first draft was absolutely shitty, you need to write everything all over again. And I still remember I had to travel for an annual alumni event at Stanford, where I was also going to do a talk about my book on campus back in March this year. My flight was on Sunday and my deadline was Friday evening. I had not slept in 4 days continuously to finish the final draft of my book.
Oh my God.
It was exciting, truly worth it.
I would call that a challenge. And I'm with you on this. If I could summarize your key challenge, I think I had the same one, which is like really deciding when it's done, right? How do you decide to add this sentence or that sentence, this story or that story? And it's a tricky one, but no doubt the editing team helped out there and you navigated a beautiful book. And certainly the market has responded. We've got, look at that. We have one of my neighbors calling in here from Olney, Maryland, Neaton. I think it's Neaton Chopra. That's awesome. Olney's a town not too far from where I'm sitting right now. Greetings from Sofia. Deepti rocks. How about that? Very solid. I'm going to put that one up on the screen. Sophia.
Thanks, Sophia.
Christopher. I mean, kind of a comment and a question. How did you become such a rock star, Deepti? How did it work? What was the journey like for you? Christopher. Nelson calling in from Atlanta. Love to see it. Oh, Greg Gerhardt's my old business partner from many moons ago. Great to see you on here, Greg. Love it. Greetings from Paris. We've got a lot of time zones covered here. Denver. I saw one other one. I saw Florida on here. Did I see James White somewhere? Oh, there he is. West Palm Beach. Hello, James. Lots of folks calling in from all over the place. Love it. Let's get back to the questions.
I do have to tell you one
Please.
interesting. My pre-order copies that I have to still send out to all the people who pre-ordered. I have copies. I have, people who've ordered the book from 16 countries. So there is a global following there.
And again, no surprise, you've had such a strong start to the book. And by the way, as we go, please add any questions or other comments you have to the chat. We'll be definitely try to grab them as we go. Deepti, next question for you. What drove you to write this book? It's no easy task, but what was your mission for this thing? What are you trying? What's your purpose here?
Sure. I want to warn you, this answer is going to be long, but it wouldn't be possible to answer this question without a story. So it all started with one of the courses that I took as part of Exec Ed program at Stanford GSB in 2019, Building Power to Lead. All the Stanford GSB people would know this course, definitely who are right now present here. And now I've been working as part of this course in the teaching team and coach on that course as well. I worked with 250 plus global executives on that course. It is one of the most sought after courses by Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer, by the way, whose endorsement you can see on the front cover of my book. I dedicate my book to him. So if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have written this book. And he was one of the first people who actually encouraged me to write this book. And the story around this is, picture this. I was going on a train from my house to Davos in Switzerland. That's where I live, by the way. And Davos is 2 hours train ride. It was January, freezing cold, early morning. I had a cup of coffee in my hand. So as I looked out the beautiful Swiss scenery outside, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to World Economic Forum in Davos without an invite or any connections. What is going to be my strategy to get in and meet all the leaders I have mapped out to meet that day? Now, you might ask why I was doing this in the first place. So this course from Professor Pfeffer that I'm talking about pushes you out of your comfort zone to navigate your career and accelerate your path to success. One of the key tenets of that is to build extensive, diverse, meaningful networks. And in 1 week, during the course in 1 week, we are challenged to kickstart 10 influential connections that could jumpstart our project, promotion, or whatever you're trying to achieve. So I had recently quit my super well-paying head of product management role at one of the biggest watch companies in Switzerland to pursue my passion to work with design thinking in innovation and disruptive technologies. And as part of the course, my goal was to switch my career path in 8 weeks. And I was like, 1 week, 10 influential connections in an industry that is very new to me. What better place than World Economic Forum to find them? So the only issue is I don't have an invite. But I'm a creative person, so studied design, so I could think out of the ordinary. My strategy was that there is an area near reception desks or World Economic Forum, which is open to public. People can't get into the events, but they can hang out in the coffee area. Now, all the leaders that are attending these events do take coffee breaks, right? So what better place to start some casual conversations there? You wouldn't believe in that one day, I returned home with 3 super influential people who are now my mentors. They got me inside 2 sessions where I joined them as guests, 1 follow-up meeting to do a project, 1 project with MIT Media Lab. So this was all done in like one day of going to World Economic Forum without an invite. And this one event actually changed my perspective on what is possible if you get out of your comfort zone, be creative in doing what you want to do, build influential networks, of course, break the rules, and most importantly, get out of your own way. And I built my entire consulting and coaching business that I run today, on the basis of this one personal experience and a lot of personal branding strategies that I talk about in the book. Now I had another passion, and I am an ally to entrepreneurs and simply inspired by the tendency to dream big and make things that impact the world. Using all the same principles that I talked about, I co-founded an accelerator program with Stanford GSB, which you were actually a part of yesterday as a guest speaker. So loved it. Everybody loved it. Great feedback.
Thank you so much.
Now, here I worked with 150 plus startups founders who have immense potential, great business models, product offerings, also the various other accelerators that I'm part of. But there is a big but. I found that they are often leaving their fate in the hands of investors, stakeholders, VCs, public grants to decide if their ideas and their dreams are worth their money, time, and investment. So, why did I write this book? Because I have found so many talented founders and innovation leaders in my life with great ideas who are struggling to get support. They need to get their ideas, off the ground. But even though, investors initially believe in their capability of the product, they do not believe in their leadership qualities all the time. And this is because of the founder's approach that getting investment in their ideas and dreams, starting from a place of having less power and influence than investors in front of them. But I believe there is a better way. And I've seen it work repeatedly in these stories that I share in the book and people I've worked with as a coach and a mentor. So you can start from a position of equal, if not more power and influence. If you can build your credibility through powerful brand, building trust through visibility of your past excellence performance, through meaningful networks, and through getting out of your own way and comfort zone to challenge the narrative of who gets sponsored, mentored, funded, or supported.
Wow, that is quite a journey. I don't think I've heard that story about crashing the World Economic Forum in Davos. Is this the appropriate term here? Showing up uninvited and developing this network. I mean, I'm going to add audacity, a bit of audacity to your list here, my friend, in terms of getting out there. And I love that you've created your own. You kind of created your own little accelerator for your own business when you did this, right? And got yourself off the ground pretty rapidly. And you've seen some of these key challenges. This sort of power of balance that we don't often recognize right out of the gate, or maybe don't realize we can equalize better. That's really fascinating. On that point, I think this speaks to one of the key insights you also found from your book. What do you want to share a little bit about that from your interviews?
Yeah, so Trailblazer Founders brings forward and celebrates stories of diverse founders in particular, women and people of color, as I believe role modeling plays a big role in changing the narratives around who gets funded and sponsored, for instance. A bit of a fact there, last year, US startups with all women teams received 1.9%, which is $4.5 billion out of 238 billion venture capital allocated last year. And the numbers are very similar for Black and Asian founders, and not just in the US. Globally, the picture is the same. And although there are various institutional reforms being talked about in venture industry recently, a lot of women groups and male-led VC firms are engaging in new ways of scouting founders to remove biases. But one such firm is, of course, Playfair Capital, whose managing partner Chris Smith I interviewed for the book, or David Hornick of Lobby Capital, again, who are actually talking about how they start looking at founders from a diversity lens. But the fact is, despite being a supporter of these reforms, I believe these reforms would only make a small dent in the improvement that we hope to see. So despite being a supporter, one of the research that I want to mention here is that it will take about 136 years to close the global gender gap at the current pace we're changing things, as per World Economic Forum again. So my intuition was that before writing this book, that there are some different behavioral patterns that certain founders from diverse backgrounds engage in that enable them to break the biases and navigate the ecosystem in a very different way. And my search was after that pattern recognition of these behavioral qualities. And of course, after interviewing several dozen founders, what I realized was that success of an outcome is of how one embodies their inspirational qualities and influential convictions rather than about the product or the idea being really amazing. And, as one of the founders in the VCs in my book says, the bolder you are, the more respected you are. And one very unique insight was every person I interviewed for the book had some version of one common phrase, which was, I was never aware of any biases. I did not know that I was being viewed differently. I was just bold enough to do and go after what I wanted to believe I could achieve. Every single person, they had some version of it, which leads us to think that we are often inhibited by our own self limiting actions and beliefs. And when the system is already unfair, these self limiting actions and beliefs become even bigger hurdles. So, this book gives you that extra push to remove those barriers, exemplary stories and role models, the tools and the framework, and the helpful advice that are presented in a way that make you feel your goals as a founder more possible, attainable, and achievable.
I, I love that key point you made there, because I think that goes for all founders, particularly some of the folks you're really trying to help support, the more diverse community, that like just get out of your own way, right? Like they weren't worried about what other people were thinking about them. They were trying to push their mission and vision forward and make it happen, and not worry about all these other things. That is absolutely brilliant. I love that was such a key element you found out of your interviews. And I know you interviewed dozens of people. When you talked about building effective networks in there and how you did it with the World Economic Forum, and what would you suggest to entrepreneurs today to try to do that? What's a bit of a roadmap you offer in the book on that?
That's a very good question and very close to my heart. I always say people do business with people, and nowhere is this more relevant in the startup ecosystem. So I have some 14 strategies that I share in one of my chapters, building effective networks in the book. I will share 3 of them here with you guys. The first one is get to know more founders in your industry, not only investors, but also founders. Contact and build relationships with founders or companies in your industry segment or adjacent industries who have achieved 1 or 2 steps more success than you have. I've always found that founders have almost like a tribal communities when they actually bond together and they like to help each other. And they can give you some professional advice on what has worked and not worked and introduce you to people who have actually funded their businesses. So that works as a great strategy. The second one is network to build relationships, not to raise money. Building networks around everything that you would need from, for your business to grow: vendors, board members, advisors, influencers, community leaders, legal experts, people in government regulatory areas. Cast a wide net when you're networking, because most often founders are just after investors, but it's so much more to it that it can actually propel your business. And you don't want to be a hot deal that's simply being thrown money on because investors think you'll be profitable. The best investors for you actually are those who have a deep conviction in what you're doing and who want to invest in you because they believe in your vision. And the third one, build on weak ties in your network, which is the people who are either one step removed from current network or people you have worked in the past. Weak ties are not just important for getting connected to investors and other founders. If investors decide to back you, they will likely do some research into the people you've worked with in the past. And you must not only form new ties, but also nurture your existing ones, like your past classmates, former colleagues, ex supervisors, past clients, because these are the people who can actually vouch for your skills and capabilities and validate the credibility of what you're pitching to actually investors. So I think these are 3 overlooked points, other than all the other things that people commonly know about, that really work in networking.
Networking with purpose, spreading a wide net. I mean, it almost sounds like like a political campaign, right? Getting all these people in support behind you, having all these different resources to ultimately tap into, but more importantly, focusing on the relationship, not just necessarily going after the investors, because many times those relationships can open other doors. That is fantastic advice, and I think that can go for a lot of things out there. I want to ask you one more question before we jump into the rapid fire part, which is always my favorite. And I'm going to share as you share the answer to this question, I'll put up some of the other folks that are dialing in with us, because we got a bunch more people calling in from all over the world. What are your goals for 2013, Deepti?
Goals for 2023. Like everything else in my life, I have audacious goals. I coach and mentor people on one of the things that I tell them is 10x your ambition and find ways to accelerate your path. And only then you will achieve what you are set out to achieve. So I preach what I teach. My goal is that I want to get this book to millions of people and make an impact where it really, really matters. And I do know the stories in the book have the capability to change the narratives and stories in entrepreneurs and leaders around the world. That is a goal that I believe today's listeners can definitely help me with. And for that, I have an ask to the audience. Go get a copy for yourself and for 5 other people whose lives and ventures you think this book can make a difference. And I also want to be able to reach accelerators, incubators, universities invested in making an impact to the founder's journey. So get in touch with me on LinkedIn if you can, or if you can make introductions to people who would like to invest in growth for these communities and offer them a different kind of perspective of how founders can succeed.
Wow. Definitely a powerful story, incredible roadmap, and just dozens and dozens of bits of early praise from amazing people that you've connected with out there. If you want to connect with Deepti, definitely go to her website at deeptipahwa.com, and on LinkedIn, the same, DeeptiPahwa, and go out and get 5 copies. Amazon makes it very easy to do. And for a limited time, the Deepti's book is only $1.99, the ebook, until June 11th. And I know you started that promotion on Diversity Day just a couple of weeks or so ago. So I love that. We're going to jump over to the rapid fire questions here. So if you do have a question or comment for Deepti, by all means, throw it in the chat, and we'll come to that after the rapid fire session here. Got a few more hellos here from Seattle. We've got people from, I think, calling in. We got a little conversation starting in the chat now between 2 of our guests. I love it when that happens. That is fantastic. But so let's dive in here. Deepti, you ready for the rapid fire segment?
Yeah, nervous.
I did see, by the way, Stefano. Hello, Stefano. He's right up the street from me here in Rockville. That's funny. So first, I think, and most hard-hitting question, Deepti, favorite lunch or sandwich? What's that? What's on your list there?
Oh, tomato mozzarella pesto.
Sounds like a winner. Maybe a little olive oil. I don't think I even have to ask this question, but for our listeners, favorite color?
Well, anyone who has ever visited my social media profiles would know it. Any guesses? Yellow.
It's on your book cover. It's on every picture I think I've ever seen of you.
And that's part of my brand building strategy as well. I can talk about it in some other podcast. It'll be a long story if I talk about it now. But yeah.
Fair enough. Favorite or most memorable vacation spot? I know you've literally been to 50 something different countries, but what one stands out to you?
57 countries, yeah. But one does stand out to me, and that is watching Northern Lights in Finland, Lapland. That sight stopped me in my tracks.
That sounds amazing. Changing gears here, scariest animal?
Ooh, to be honest, I'm scared of most animals. So, even dogs. So believe me, you don't want to know that.
Fair enough. Well, at least you didn't. Snakes often get a bad rap on this show, but glad it wasn't that one. Better fruit, Deepti, apples or bananas?
Oh, I like yellow bananas.
Favorite movie?
I come from India. No surprises. I love Bollywood. So there is a movie called Queen. I think only Indians would know about it. It's a movie of a girl who travels to Europe from India the first time, and she rediscovers herself and a new sense of, a sense of newfound confidence. And the story I pretty much relate with when I came to Europe for the very first time about 16 years back. So yeah, that's the movie I would say.
Love it. Bollywood. Favorite first concert you went to?
Bryan Adams. He was quite a thing in India at that time.
Nice. Favorite smell?
I love that one. Spring, fresh, crisp air, budding flowers, wet soil, and cake being baked in oven. I want to eat it now.
Love it. I'm with you. I love the smell of spring. Last photo on your phone. I'm going to have to look at mine now to see what I have on there. I don't even know.
It was this morning. I know it because my 11-month-old son, he's so cute these days, experimenting with his new skills to clap and dance and trying to eat with his hands. So yeah, it was this morning.
Nice. I have one of me and my son playing a little soccer last night. Favorite song to sing with or without an audience?
I Believe I Can Fly from Ronan Keating.
That's solid. What is one thing you own you really should throw out?
Okay, that's a disclaimer here, but 75 plus pairs of shoes. No kidding. I should donate them. My husband tells me you just take a room full of shoes. So yeah.
Nice. You talked a little bit about your goals and one audacious goal. I think there was another audacious goal you had out there. Would you like to share that with our listeners?
Absolutely. I want to be on a TEDx this year somehow. And I am very close. I actually got to know this morning that I've been selected, not for the TEDx directly yet, but One of the biggest TEDx that happens in India. 50 people that have been selected from 130 people. So the next round is still there happening. So I hope to be on it.
So you advance to the next round for a TED Talk in India. That is fantastic. You have dozens of praise quotes for your book. I'd love for you to share one of them with our listeners. I know it's hard to pick a favorite, but what's a praise quote from your book you'd like to share with our listeners?
Absolutely. I don't want to, I don't want to pick, but yeah,
There's no favorites, right? No.
There are no favorites. But Matt Abrahams, Stanford professor who has this famous podcast called Think Fast, Talk Smart, millions of downloads for him. He wrote, I personally benefited from the balanced combination of practical and tactical aspects of business building, along with psychological approach and mindsets needed. And the second one, I'll say one more, which is from Dory Clark. She's the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of The Long Game. She wrote, Deepti Pahwa has crafted a powerful blueprint to show founders how to magnify their impact.
Incredible. And Dory and I were on a similar podcast a couple of months ago, and I asked the host who one of his favorite guests was, and actually Dory Clark was the one he stated best guest he had on. Well done. Well done, Dory. As you went through the book, what was a memorable moment for you as you were writing the book?
I have loads of them, but there was one interview I did with David Hornick. He's the founding partner and VC at Lobby Capital. He is a legend. I mean, I loved his insights. His experience is incredible, but how he just threw out phrase after phrase that I actually ended up creating 2 new chapters based on his insights alone, which is one is VC insiders' take on investable founders, and the other one is jockey versus the horse, what compels investment decisions. So I could have written more. I mean, honestly.
That is great. I mean, that's one of the amazing things about the book, the people you can connect with and get these deep insights from. It's so, so powerful. What has been your favorite part about being an author so far?
To see other people's reaction when you tell them that you're an author. It's fun. They just see you differently all of a sudden. And the second one I would say, which is more meaningful, is like you feel like you're giving a gift, you're leaving a legacy and making a contribution and impact to the narratives already being told and existing in the society. So yeah.
That is so cool. It is fun having this sort of permanent thing out there in the world, isn't it? And sort of a blessing and a curse sometimes, because I often think, oh, why didn't I change that sentence, right? There's always like these little things I think, why didn't I do that differently? Those feelings are fading as my book is a little older. What would you say to those considering writing a book, Deepti?
By all means, do it. It's a very fulfilling process, but take a topic that you are passionate about. It's a long commitment. Do not write about something that you feel is trending. Don't write about something on which there are hundreds of books. Find something where you have a unique perspective. I have 2 strategies in the book that I discuss in detail that founders should look into when pursuing their ideas. And I would say it's the same for writing a book or any project that you wish to take up. Define your why. Where do you make an impact and why? And the second one is even more important. Why are you uniquely positioned to do what you're set out to do? Or in this case, to write what you're writing about.
I love that the startup mindset permeates everything it is, the way you think, the way you live, the way you do, all that you've done. Brilliant. If you would, describe your writing journey in 5 words.
Roller coaster, fun, insightful, growth and learning, and fulfilling.
I mean, I'd say that summarized your advice to those considering writing a book pretty nicely. It's a non-linear path for sure. It's an exciting one, much like a startup, and there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. But it's good to have some guidance and some guardrails along the way, and some coaching. So it's really been a pleasure to have a little bit of a front row seat to your journey, Deepti, and get to know your story. Closing thoughts for our listeners here, and then I do want to there's a couple questions in the chat I want to get to as well.
I hope that I've inspired you today to take action and acknowledge that our minds and behaviors are capable of powerful transformation. And if you're stuck in your startup journey or want to bring your idea to next level as an innovation leader, the situation might seem unchangeable, but it is not. It can be shifted with a little push in just the ideal place. And for that push, go read Trailblazer Founders.
Love it. A couple of quick questions in the chat maybe we could address. This is an interesting one. Differentiating entrepreneurship in Silicon Valley versus the rest of the world. Any thoughts on that one?
Absolutely. And that's the reason I have not picked all the stories in my book which are from Silicon Valley. I have them from all over. Actually, I have them from Africa, I have them from Brazil, Mexico. I also have them from India. So yeah, I mean, Silicon Valley is not the end all be all of entrepreneurship, even though, of course, that there's a mindset. I think the mindset is what we talk about when we talk about Silicon Valley. And that mindset is something that we can all learn from, but not to say, there are great ideas being built everywhere else in the world.
Love that. And that's why you started the Lisa Lead program, right? It's not about where you are. Entrepreneurship knows no borders. And certainly with the mission behind what you've built there was amazing. One other quick question here, kind of getting into your book, The Ecosystem. What would you tell an entrepreneur on where to start?
In terms of ecosystem, just want to frame this question maybe different, better for myself. Do you mean to say that where to start in terms of where to start building your company from, or where to get support from?
Unfortunately, that person doesn't have a name on here, so I can't ask for further context without saying it out loud. So I'll ask this person, whoever dropped that question, if you have another thought on there or a bit more context, please drop it in there.
But at the same time, I would just start maybe, refer back to my answer that I said about networking. When you're thinking of ecosystem, really think about all the puzzles that put together to make, that help in making a business, where it would lead to, which means not only investors, but also invest your energies in understanding, who are the key players, stakeholders, communities. I think community is something people absolutely forget about. Communities, and people think about clients and customers, but whenever you have an idea, you actually have a certain cause that you want to solve for, right? And when you want to solve for that cause, there is always a community that is invested in that cause. Find that community to start building on that, that network, that ecosystem that you are. And of course, exchange between founders, that is also often underestimated. Founders can really help each other. We've seen actually in Lisa that founders who are actually collaborating with each other to test their ideas, to prototype their ideas, to also, kind of provide one service to the other startup, which could be actually, the other way around as well. So, ecosystem is really a powerful thing.
Right, creating that web, that ecosystem to have these different resources along the way. Deepti, unbelievable story. Thank you so much for sharing it with the creator community here today. Thank you to our listeners for joining this episode of Meet the Author Live. Definitely go check out Deepti's book, Trailblazer Founders, Breaking Through the Invisible Boundaries, wherever you buy books online, and learn more about her at deeptipahwa.com. I'm your host of the creator community, John Saunders. Thanks for joining us today, and keep creating.
And I want to thank you, John. I mean, you were like an incredible host, really. So thank you.
I so appreciate it. Great to see you, and have a lovely rest of the day to you, Deepti, and everyone else listening in here.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining in.